In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
The ruling on the field stands.
We deliver jerseys, funny foam fingers, and everything you need for the game. But what you really get is so much more.
FedEx Delivery.
Game day spirit. What we deliver by delivering.
Welcome back to another edition of the Daily Memphian Memphis Tigers podcast. This is your host, Drew Hill, the Memphis Tigers basketball beat writer. I'm joined, as always, by Jonah Jordan, the Memphis Tigers football writer.
This is the second time today we have been sitting 5 feet away from each other in front of microphones.
We did the radio this morning. We're going to talk about some other stuff than we talked about on the radio here on the podcast. Look, obviously, the big news of the week is James Wiseman has been suspended 12 games and ordered to donate $11,500 to charity, which is the amount that his mother took as moving expenses from Penny Hardaway when James moved to Memphis in 2017. And by donate, the NCAA basically means that they're fining him, because I don't buy that that's a donation.
A lot of questions about where he's going to get that money from, but somebody said that he could pay it back over a period of 4 years, which is...
Yeah, exactly. So look, this is where I stand with this, and I'm sure a lot of people are ready to stop hearing about this because it's been dragging out for such a long period of time.
What's it been, 3 weeks now? 2 weeks?
Yeah, it feels like forever.
We've been talking about James Wiseman's eligibility for a long time, and I think that now... At this point, like, me and you agree with one another. Nobody wants to sit here and listen to us be like, oh, I agree with you.
Right.
And I don't think we can advance the story. I don't think that we can make up any new points that
in other words, we'll spare you the time of a full James Wiseman podcast.
Yes.
But we'll kind of just
we'll
recap our thoughts really, really quickly.
You go first.
Okay. So here's where I am with the whole situation, because I think in town and in general, you see a pretty wide divide between columnists, between radio personalities, between national writers, between coaches, former basketball players, everything. And you see, and certainly Memphis fans.
Patrick Mahomes.
And even reigning NFL MVPs, yes. So you see this divide that's going on right now. Because before this conversation, to me, was, okay, is Memphis doing the right thing? Like, what's the next step? What's the next step that they should take? Should they, keep the lawsuit? Should they try and reach a settlement? What's the next thing? And people would argue about that. And now, the way that this entire thing has played out, it feels like this is totally changed. You have everyone sort of feels bad, and everyone can kind of acknowledge that James Wiseman is the victim in all of this.
Yes.
An 18-year-old kid that just wants to play basketball, who, according to the university, knew nothing about this money that was exchanged. And the entire thing is unfortunate. In any other profession, this kid could make a business decision to decide to go do whatever he wanted, and learn from whoever he wanted in his given profession, besides this. So I think everybody is in agreement that the situation is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now, and I wrote this in my notebook, which you can go read over at dailymemphian.com, it's a matter of finger pointing in terms of who do you blame more, and who do you think is more? Is it are you pointing the finger at the University of Memphis and the people that advised James Wiseman and say, you screwed up, and now Memphis is in jeopardy, and now James has to sit out 3 more games when he didn't do anything wrong in this situation to get the 3 more games?
James has literally just been listening to the people who are supposed to have his best interest at heart. And
right.
I think that's something that people should remember.
So you're either pointing the finger in that direction, or you're pointing the finger, and this is the way our columnist at the Daily Memphian is doing, is pointing the finger at the NCAA and saying, you know what, this is so screwed up, and who cares what they did? All the blame should fall on the NCAA anyway, because they are a vindictive, inconsistent organization, and this is their fault. And where I feel is, and I taken a long time to get to this point, like I'm just at the point where it just sucks for everyone, and the finger pointing is just adds to it. And I know that this is the topic of discussion right now, but I just feel bad for James, and I think the finger pointing doesn't do any. It
doesn't do any good. And I think that the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. That is, and that's probably the reality of the situation, is that the blame probably lies somewhere in the middle. But as in all things, blame isn't going to fix anything, and you just kind of have to pick up and move on. And picking up and moving on started last night. It started last night with their game against Arkansas Little Rock. They won. What was it? Win by 10.
Yep.
And kind of struggled there for a little bit. I don't know. Is Arkansas Little Rock better than maybe people give them credit for, or was that Memphis team just struggling without James Wiseman? We don't know. We can't say for sure if they knew or about the suspension. There were some questions about that after the game. I just think they struggled without James on the floor.
Yeah, no, Arkansas Little Rock is like around a 150 Ken Palm type team, so definitely not as bad as a team like Alcorn State, but still not great. Yes, it was funny. We were all sitting there at the game yesterday watching, and we're thinking, they got to be shocked about the news, and that's got to play some sort of role in the slow start. And then after the game, DJ and Precious, and now whether they were being sarcastic or not is yet to be completely determined.
We won't know.
And we'll probably never find out. But they claimed that they didn't know about the suspension at all, and that they hadn't touched their phones for nearly 4 hours, so that they didn't know about the 12-game suspension. And Penny backed that up by saying he didn't tell him. And
it doesn't. I don't think it matters.
It doesn't really matter. Exactly. I just think that they didn't play very well, and I think that they need some answers right now on how to handle zone defense, because you're seeing teams go to zone and just pack the paint and say, beat us another way.
Yep.
Because the shooting, and I'll get your opinion on this because I haven't heard it yet. Do you think that they can still deem this as a slump and say, we are a good shooting team, we're just not shooting it right now? Or do you think that there is the problem more concerning to you at this point now, whatever games in the season, and they're still not shooting the ball very well?
Oh, man, it's so hard to tell because they're all so young. It's so hard to tell. I don't even know what kind of team they are yet. I don't think they know what kind of team they are. I don't think we know their best 5 players yet. And I don't think you can sit here and definitively say they're not good at this or they're not good at that because they are so young. I think the biggest thing to me that stuck out when I've watched this team is they need to change the starting lineup. I don't think...
Really?
Yeah. I don't think that...
I don't think they will.
I think they're doing themselves a massive disservice by continuing to roll out that same starting lineup because they struggled right out of the gate. But it's one way or the other, shooting, whatever, I think they'll get better. I think Lester's shooting an abysmal percentage. I think they're getting used to
playing. But
he's
still playing the most minutes on the team because he finds
does good
ways
stuff, which is the sign of a great player, in my opinion, is when you are struggling, you find other ways to be effective on the basketball floor so you can stay out there. That is the sign of a great player. And that is something that will help Lester stay on the floor and work through the shooting slump that he is in. I think Boogie, obviously, is a good shooter. Tyler's a good shooter. Is Damian Ball a good shooter? I think he's got potential. I think DJ has potential.
Certainly not right now, but, he's another guy. With him, it's more about what he does without the ball in his
I think
hands
it's
on
confidence.
defense.
I think it's confidence, finding shots in the context of the offense, being in rhythm, being comfortable on the floor together, and I don't think they've found that right balance yet, just because they are so young. And now, I think this is the 3rd straight podcast where we're going to talk about the starting lineup, but I think we need to finally have the discussion. Alex Lomax needs to be starting. Damian Ball needs to be starting. DJ Jeffries needs to be starting. Precious Achiuwa needs to be starting. Who's that 5th guy for you? Is it Lester? I think that's Lester.
I would not agree with that take. I don't want to.
I think Precious Achiuwa should be starting at the 5 with DJ at the 4 and Lester at the 3. I think and then the other 2 guys in the backcourt, Damian and Alo. I think you need to have those guys on the floor, especially Alo, to kind of help settle down. And DJ, I think, is just the best player on the team right now.
I wouldn't agree with I don't necessarily agree with that starting lineup. I do agree that I think DJ has looked like the best player on the floor so far, excluding James Wiseman, obviously. I just don't see, the way that it's working right now is DJ has been a scoring jolt almost every single time he comes into the game off the bench. I just can't see them changing that because it's one of those things like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, he seems to respond well to coming off of the bench, and I think they're pretty comfortable with the starting lineup that they have outside of 5. Penny has started Lance Thomas at the 5 when James has been out both games now, but he didn't commit. He wasn't willing to commit before the last game to Lance being that permanent guy while James is out to be the 5, the starting 5 for him. So that might change maybe. Isaiah actually played pretty well. He had 7 rebounds in the first half against Little Rock, which was impressive.
Who was that?
Isaiah Maurice.
Oh, Isaiah Maurice, okay.
So we'll just have to wait and see on that. I don't think they're going to make massive changes to the starting lineup. I don't think they're going to do that. Whether you think that's a better starting 5 or not, that's your own opinion. But
obviously,
yeah, I just can't see them doing that. Alex has been a solid player for them so far too. I still think that Damien's ceiling by the end of the year.
Oh yeah, I mean, but I just think Alo and Damien need to be handcuffed together because I think they're so good in the backcourt together. Every time you watch them back there together,
but you don't have shooting when you put them on the floor.
You don't have shooting right now, anyways. That's the thing.
You need it very clearly. You can't score.
Well, then Boogie and Tyler can come in together. You can stagger it in a way to make it effective. I just think right now the way you're starting out games is not great, and I think Alo can help with that, and I think DJ can help with that. But I mean, you can sit here and disagree with all me all you want, but I think I'm right.
Of course. And then coming up, you have 2 tests. Really, they should be pretty even games, I think. Now that let me check what Ken Palm says here about the Memphis games. I'm sure that now with James out, he's probably altered.
Yeah, it's probably altered a little bit. I think that
Ken Palm still has Memphis beating Mississippi and NC State. Yeah. I'm just reading it on here for whatever reason. He has it.
Everybody listens to Mississippi. Yeah.
And I think that Memphis, even without James, will probably be favored in those games, especially since they're at home against Ole Miss.
Ole Miss is tough because Kermit Davis is a really, really good coach.
Right.
And I think they have a few good scrappy players down there, and he's gonna scheme you. He's gonna go into his zone. He doesn't care.
Right. I think Ole Miss is gonna be a pretty tough test on Saturday. It's a big day on Saturday down at FedEx Forum, and we'll get into the football game too. But you got Memphis, Ole Miss, and then Lakers, Grizzlies doubleheader back to back. So pretty big day there.
Do you think LeBron comes to watch?
Maybe he might be able to convince LeBron to.
Maybe LeBron comes and sits behind the bench, gives James some advice.
that would be one.
Give you a little something to write about.
Right. But no, going back to Ole Miss, their backcourt has been pretty strong. Bree and Tyree is awesome. Yep. Devontae Shuler has been impressive for them so far this year, and they're supposed to get Blake Hinson back, who is returning from a blood abnormality.
I don't want to know about that.
I don't know exactly what that is.
Nope.
I just took it for what it is.
Nope.
But he should be back too. So that's going to be a pretty big test for the backcourt there against Ole Miss.
And then you
go into the North Carolina State game. And in that game, NC State really has not been that impressive so far this year. They lost
Is their coach still
to Georgia Tech, Kevin Keats.
Kevin Keats, yep.
They lost to Georgia Tech in their opening game. They've beaten pretty bad teams since then. So both games are definitely very winnable for Memphis. I also, in my notebook today, I noted that they are officially, according to statistics, the youngest team in the country. So
that's
not just a young team, the youngest team in the country, and on the floor, their average experience is 0.34 years.
Whew.
So that just,
brutal.
when you take that into account and you see the struggles, it all makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
Duke and Kentucky are also really low on that experience list. And just like Memphis struggled against Little Rock, which is a 130 to 150 Ken Palm type team, both Duke and Kentucky have struggled with teams in that range as well. Kentucky lost to Evansville, who was in that range. So Memphis is on pace. They're on track. And whether you're frustrated or not with the way that the game went on Wednesday night, this is all sort of part of what this process looks like with this young of a team.
So my question for you is, right now where we're at recruiting wise. Memphis missed on another prospect yesterday. Dawson Garcia committed to Marquette. I don't know how involved they were before. They missed on Chris Moore, Jaden Springer, a couple other guys. Where are they now? Because it definitely seems like they're not in the best position, but after the early signing period, and then you get hit with this dark cloud of the possibility of major sanctions, and then James Wiseman's suspension. Where are they at recruiting wise right now?
Yeah, I don't think before this whole potential major infractions thing came into the picture, there wasn't really a ton of panic. I know on the coaching staff side that the recruiting didn't really go their way because there's still a lot of time left, and obviously the big fish, Jalen Green and Greg Brown, are still in play.
Yep.
And obviously it's still super early because this ruling happened yesterday, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen in terms of a major infractions case.
That's so
obviously
far down the road,
if that happens, there's a lot that could potentially change for Memphis on the recruiting trail, but it hasn't happened yet. And until it happens, we really won't have any answers to that. But no, that would be really bad news on the recruiting trail.
It'd be terrible news
happens.
for every single part of this. But that's a long way down the road, I think. I don't think that'll happen today, tomorrow, or even next month. But who knows?
All right.
With the NCAA.
Now let's pause and take a break for a message from our sponsor.
The Daily Memphian and Tigers podcast is brought to you by FedEx. Possibilities. What we deliver by delivering.
Football time, Jonah.
I got excited about football.
Time. I know you were itching to talk about football when we first got in here, and obviously we had to touch on the Wiseman stuff first. But Memphis football plays a game in Tampa this weekend.
Let's talk about something other than Memphis football first, because I got some local stuff that's going on. Liberty Bowl. Bowl.
Okay. What do you got?
I'm hearing some stuff. Right now, I think if the season ended today or ended Sunday, so don't listen to this podcast and be like, "Oh, Jonah, you're wrong," in like a month. But I think if the season ended Sunday, we would see a Texas, either Navy or SMU Liberty Bowl. The winner of, I think, that Navy SMU game, which is this weekend or the next, will end up in the Liberty Bowl against Texas. That is.
Is this not Memphis? This is
local
news. This
local
is not
news.
Memphis Tigers news.
It ties in.
Okay.
It ties in.
Hit me.
So Memphis, I don't think will want to play in the Liberty Bowl. I don't think that. I think obviously the goal is the Cotton Bowl. That is the 1A. We want to go to the Cotton Bowl.
Of course.
That's what we want to do. I think after that, if you lose to Cincinnati and you don't go to the conference championship, I wouldn't be surprised to see Memphis try and get one of those bowls before Christmas. To try and get a win. Okay, we want to avoid
which
Birmingham.
Would be
like Gasparilla.
Okay.
I bet try and get a win, get an exciting game that fans can go to before Christmas. Don't want to go to Hawaii. Nobody wants to do that.
No one wants to play against BYU out there, huh?
Yeah, no, it's not. So
I thought it was going to be Hawaii, right? Usually, if Hawaii,
it's Hawaii.
Wins, it's going to be Hawaii.
Yes,
and BYU.
I think that's how it works. So, but regardless, I wouldn't
Hawaii
be
would
shocked.
Be an awesome trip for you, man.
I don't think. Yeah, it would be because it's on Christmas Eve. So kind of want to avoid that. And then you got the Birmingham Bowl, the Liberty Bowl. I think those are the two biggest ones outside of the Cotton Bowl, obviously.
Please no Birmingham Bowl.
I don't really want to go to Birmingham for the third time since 2015. That'd actually be like my fifth time in Birmingham.
It would just feel like such a buzzkill to have the football team have their best season in school history, maybe, and still end up in the Birmingham Bowl. Come on. That would be terrible.
They're in a rough spot. And I think there are obviously some other ones. You have the Military Bowl out there, especially if Navy ends up going somewhere else. But you're in a tough spot when it comes to bowls. Like, the AAC does not have a great slot or great selection of bowls. So you kind of have to navigate it in a way that is beneficial to you. And usually beneficial means money. And the Liberty Bowl gives you the most money. But there are a lot of mitigating circumstances there, and I'm not entirely sure that Memphis would want to stay here and play in it. So thinking. I think I'm still rolling with my prediction that they get into the Cotton Bowl, that they win out, that they beat USF this weekend, they beat Cincinnati twice in a row, and they move on. They go to the Cotton Bowl, and I think that they right now, looking at the selection of teams, my guess is Baylor. That's what I'm rolling with. Baylor or Alabama. You probably disagree with that, but
no, I don't disagree with that. I think that could potentially happen. I think that they would probably like them in the Sugar Bowl just because
Alabama?
Just because it's closer, and again, it's about money. I don't know. Let me pose this question: would you rather play? And I think there would be probably a divide when it comes to Memphis fans. Would you rather play a school like Baylor that if they get to the Cotton Bowl, they're going to take it very seriously, play all their starters, whatnot? Or do you want to play a power like a Georgia or an Alabama who might sit players and not take the game seriously?
If you play Alabama, their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 best offensive players aren't going to play.
Right.
The 4 receivers and your running back.
It might give you a better chance to win,
Tua's not
but
playing.
What's the fun in that, And
then Raekwon Davis may or may not play. He's a junior, so he can probably go to the draft, right?
Right.
Who knows who else wouldn't play on that team that's draft eligible? You got a couple of linebackers, maybe, or a cornerback who are going to go on to the draft. I don't know. You would want to win in my mind, but I know at the end of the day, would it be as satisfying?
Bowl games don't really matter. It's about making it to the bowl games.
Yes, it's making it to the bowl game, but also when you're Mike Norvell and you haven't won a bowl game in 3 years, it is also about winning.
I suppose, yes. I guess that's a
But
a
yeah,
good point.
those are more just daily Memphian bowl projections right now that we're rolling out with. My guess is still Memphis in the Cotton Bowl against Baylor, which would be a stupid fun game. Matt
a
Rule
lot of
against,
points. Man, that would be fun.
Yeah, like Matt Rule versus Mike Norvell. Fun stuff. And then
It'd be fun to get Oklahoma in that game too. That would be fun.
You're just going to score 1,000 points.
I know, that would be a million.
Let's do it.
That would be.
But I think that Tennessee, I think they will be bowl eligible, and I think they'll make their way up to the Music City Bowl up in Nashville. So there should be a bunch of good local bowls to go to regardless. Things could obviously change. Bowl projections are very fluent. They're very crazy. Things change so fast. But now let's talk about USF. You keep giving bad predictions
What do you
for the
mean?
game, but you finally got one right. Kind of.
What do you mean?
Your predictions for the games have been off. I'm going to have Natalie
My first
go
predictions were bad. I've been better since then.
What, your first 8? You're better since then was the one last week?
My prediction that was bad was my really bad prediction was that they were going to sleepwalk at South Alabama and that the game was going to be close at least
that was
until
bad.
half. But other than that, I haven't been that terrible.
I think this one's going to be the one where they're going to slow start even more than they did last week. Mike Norvell wasn't happy with practice earlier this week. Even in the slightest, he was mad. The maddest I've seen him in 4 or 5 weeks. Frustrated, not happy with where his team's at. I don't know how they look today. I haven't really, we're not allowed to practice here in the back half of the week. But he wants them fired up. He wants them fired up because this USF team's playing for more than people realize. They're playing for their coach to keep his job. They're a pretty good defense with a scrappy quarterback. That defense has been really good in the past game. This is going to be the game if Kenny Gainwell is going to win you a game in the back half of the season. This is going to be it because, as I wrote it on the Daily Memphian, I think it can be seen there, or it should be here in the next few hours, that USF's run defense isn't that good. One of the worst in the conference. They give up a lot of 10-yard runs, 20-yard runs, 30-yard runs. They give up a lot of yards on the ground a game, but they're very good in pass defense. Hot Brady White may not continue and may not be his fault. This is just a really good matchup for USF because, they play well when you start throwing the ball down the field.
We talked about last week these slow starts. Man, they got to get this figured out, don't they? Or is it or does that is not really a concern until the Cincinnati game, and they should be able to hold off USF.
It was too bad. 2 missed tackles and a slippery ball away from Houston probably not scoring more than 3 points in the first half. 2 missed tackles and a ball that DeMonte Coxie should have caught. And outside of those 2 drives, they had 150 yards in their first 2 drives, and then Memphis kept them to 106 the rest of the game, which is the lowest total they've had since I think it was 2014 or 2015. The Houston has. So
it's literally, again, just a matter of
tiny stuff.
Just a matter of waking up. Like once they're up, they're fine. But it just
like the offense
slow
came
starts
out.
They just, I don't know, they're routine at this point.
Well,
right?
They got a little unlucky, but yeah, like it's something we're used to. Like somebody just texted me, "Oh, Memphis could lose this game." I was like, no, they're not going to lose this game. I'm sitting up here. Mike Norvell doesn't lose to Houston. He doesn't. It's just like, it's a fact. Like at this point, like he's beaten him 4 times with 3 different coaches. It is what it is. He doesn't lose to Houston. Like they were always going to wake up. That Houston defense wasn't great. They played like 2 seniors the whole game. They came out with all of their uniforms covered up and warm up, so you didn't know who was playing and who wasn't, trying to throw Memphis off. And I guess it threw them off for like 15 minutes, and then they kind of turned it around. But yeah, I don't think it's a huge concern at this point, really, because the games with Memphis, the games are so long. There's so many possessions. There's so many opportunities to score. Like that's just it's. Even if they were down 21 in that game, they would have had to go down like 35. Felt like that
in the Temple game. Even though they lost, it's at no point did it ever feel like it was insurmountable.
Like it was 16-0, and I'm just like, no, that's 3 possessions. They can do that in 10 minutes. Like they do it so fast that I don't think they can be out of any game. But that could be different against a really, really good defense. Now South Florida has trouble stopping the run.
I was going to get to that. So there is no worry from you or reason to worry that they could potentially lose in South Florida.
I'm not worried about it. I think they will start slow again. I think they will. I think they'll probably turn the ball over once or twice. But if you told me on Sunday, hey, Memphis came out and blasted them 56-10, it wouldn't shock me. But they started down 10-0 and then tallied up 56 straight points before the end of the game. Like, it wouldn't shock me. Like, I don't think that they're going to lose. It'll be a little bit of a slow start because it's hard not to get caught looking ahead. You've got all the stuff with Mike Norvell's name out there. There are a lot of distractions right now. There are for this team. And that's something that bothers Mike Norvell quite a bit.
And so South Florida, when you go through their last couple of games, they played Cincinnati pretty close. Why do you think that was the case?
Cincinnati's struggling. Go look at what Cincinnati's done the last few games. I mean, I don't think that – I mean, they almost lost. I think it was either Tulsa or East Carolina or both. I mean, they haven't looked as good as they did at the beginning half of the season. I don't know if they're getting caught looking ahead or they're tired. But at this point in the season, my thing is that everyone's tired. Everyone's hurt. Like, you got to get up for these games or you're going to lose. There's something like Memphis. They were up for the game. They just made a few mistakes there at the beginning. I never once thought, man, this offense looks sleepy, or man, they just look like they're lost out there. It's just they made mistakes and they cleaned it up and they ended up winning. They would have won by 20 or more, but they had that blocked punt at the end.
All right, so last thing, and then we can get on out of here. Mike Norvell's name is attached to a Football Scoop report that he met with the University of Arkansas, but that Florida State would remain his top option. What do you think of that?
Did it have a date on when he met with Arkansas?
No, it did not. I don't believe so.
I don't think that it was a recent meeting, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm wrong. I think that it probably, if that happened, which I would trust Football Scoop. I think those guys are great. They're really, really good and accurate, so we have no reason to doubt it. I don't think it happened in the last week. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would be shocked if he showed interest in that job, like heavy interest. As I think that there is a lot of interest with that Florida State job, a lot. I think that there are a lot of problems with that Arkansas job, and I think that those problems.
Oh, if it's a matter of choosing between the two, it's easy.
And I think that there are going to be more jobs open down the road. This isn't the only two. I think USC is going to open. I think Penn State could open. I think Notre Dame could open. So I think he's taking this slow. He's going to evaluate his options, but I've talked to multiple people about it. His sole focus is on winning this conference championship. This stuff is not going to get in his way of winning a conference championship and taking this team to the Cotton Bowl. 1A is conference championship. Like that's it. That's where they want to go. He is not letting this get in the way of his season. And
so you don't think we're going to have a Mike Norvell announcement anytime before the Cotton Bowl?
You totally could. You totally could. It would become. I was talking to somebody today. It would come between kickoff. It would be similar to what Justin Fuente did. It would come between kickoff of that last game and the conference championship, which is like I think a week or so away from each other, a week and a half or so.
That would be tough news.
Yeah, it would be tough.
Yeah,
it would be tough in that moment. Like with Fuente, they were blasting SMU 63-7, and it came out at halftime. Paxton Lynch threw 6 touchdowns, and so it wasn't that big of a deal for the team. That I think it did impact them down the road in that Birmingham Bowl that they played against Auburn that year. But yeah, like it totally could. But I don't think we're done with coaching stuff coming out. I don't think jobs are going to continue to open. Some will get filled, others will open, and his name will continue to be out there because he is going to be the hot candidate. I mean, top 10 offense when they didn't, like some people didn't expect this team to do that, and he's kind of got them rolling again.
So your gut says?
I was at 70% that Mike Norvell returns 2 weeks ago, and I'm still at 70%.
Okay.
That's what I'm rolling with.
That's good. You're willing to put yourself out there and give a percentage.
That's just because other jobs haven't opened. Just looking at the 2 in front of us, that's how I'm feeling right now. Obviously, that could change, but I don't think Arkansas is a good job. I think there are a lot of problems with it, a lot of problems it would present to him, his family, people that people don't really think about. So Florida State, obviously, the way better option, and you jump in a minute to Florida State. It's a top 5 job, but I think that they're kind of shooting above him right now. But we'll see. I think he's great. I mean, I think he's in a great position to get a job if that's what he wants.
All right, that'll do it for us today. You can follow Jonah on Twitter at _Jonah Jordan. You can follow me on Twitter at DrewHill_DM. You can get this podcast or any other Daily Memphian podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play. Thanks for listening.
We deliver tickets, team merchandise, and everything you need for the game. But what you really get is so much more.
FedEx Delivery.
Game day spirit. What we deliver by delivering.
In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.